Yeah, it's pretty cool to see like some of the old stuff. Like if well, actually, I don't think I can do it on lightning mode. Um, if I go to Samus and doesn't matter. You can do what's my controls like this? Samus bomb float back in the game. One of the coolest texts that they removed. That's just how it is. Let me update the set in challenge. Uh, Never seen that before. Yeah, it was in the game. I want to say beta release up until maybe 1.1 is when they removed it. But yeah, literally what you do is you bomb, you shield the explosion, and then the next aerial you do. Did I get it right? No. You have to get the not the bounce. Bounce or get out of the way. I didn't do it. Too late. I'm not doing it. All right, like that, and then like the next aerial you do stalls you in the air. Was very cool. Never really saw competitive applications just because, I mean, I feel like it didn't last that long. Although 1.0 to 1.1 is a couple of years. Maybe it was one. No, it's like 2 years. But generally, technical stuff tends to um, be irrelevant in the face of just good play. That's a cool thing, and it's not in the game anymore. Um, Close this, and there it is. All right. So let's get this review started. Reviews, plural. Um, where do I even want to start? I guess I'll start reintroduce everything. I think that's a good thing to do to reintroduce what this is and what I am doing. Um, that's, and then it's the same thing I just said. Uh, I played a bunch of games starting in August 2023, where you know I was like, I had a lot of games in the backlog, and I was like, I'm gonna start playing them. And I also like ratings and rankings, so let me do that. 2023, I had 40 games, and I did the ranking there. I felt like that was kind of long, and even though I felt like the whole stream I was trying to pay attention to the time, um, it was still kind of too long for my tastes. And now that it is a full year and there's going to be more games, um, I'd like to split it up to have hopefully not have it be not so long. It is still 30 games because the plan was 60, and so have it in the middle would be 30. That's that. What's changed from the last time is I've added this time played column just uh, just to see, how much time I'm actually spending playing these video games. So like if I look back at 2023, I can see, this is how much I played, and the total was 337 hours and 50 minutes, so 338 hours, um, which is only 3.86% of a year. And research says that like the average gamer plays 8 to 12 hours a week, which is around 5 to 7% of a year. So it's interesting to look at that and see that 40 games like this, even including like multiverses here, 120 hours, which a lot of it was just watching the CPUs play, um, is not actually, it's like it's less than the average gamer. I thought that was interesting. I will say this doesn't include like games that maybe I'm still playing, like Smash Flash. This is only the games that I completed. This year so far, I have this. Right now it's 260 hours, which is, it's around the that average amount of 5 to 7% now, because it's 5.7 of the year up to today, which is early July, and then around 3% of a total year. So if it remained that amount, it would become 6%, which is like right in the middle. And yeah, other things I've been doing is writing articles on Medium. Um, like it's about once or twice a month. There will be like a bunch coming out in the next couple of days just because I've got the music lists happening and I've made articles for those. So those will also be in article form. I think I think that's it. And I can get to the games. So I'm going to start out quickly with the games that I did not finish. They're either on hold here or in progress here. Um, Fury, I am part of a video game book club, and this was the game for May. And if you look at the, date finished of these games, you can see here that I did not finish any games in May, and Fury was like essentially a casualty of that. I don't know if I'll come back to it this year. Um, Sort of just like May, I wasn't feeling it. Any games really, and that's sort of just what happened there. Curse to Golf, I was playing even earlier than that actually. I think I played it around the same time as Tez because I was thinking both of these games they like combine two genres. I guess I should say like what they are. Fury is like a boss rush game. It's very cool. Um, but it was sort of just an unfortunate casualty of May. Um, Curse to Golf is a combination of golf video games and roguelikes, which is weird, but also I've been playing games that kind of do that. Like Aztez is like a combo game, which I'll get to. Combo game in the sense of like two genres, right? Not like a game where you combo people or anything. And last year I played Creature in the Well, and that game, since I'm not going to be talking about it, is like um, dungeon crawler and pinball. Um, so yeah, Curse the Golf, these sort of combo games. It's an interesting idea, but I found that I was just not enjoying the way uh, golf and roguelikes come together. Uh, how can I put this? So golf, the rules of golf, right? You have a par, that's the number of swings that you should be making it to the hole to, I guess, be considered good. Um, and even if you don't meet par, then your score uh, increases negatively uh, based on the number of extra swings you take. Uh, in Curse to Golf, instead of that, you sort of have not so much par, but like maybe like is it a bogey, like a triple bogey, maybe 3 plus 3. You have that amount, and if you have that amount of swings per hole, and there's the full 18. And if you don't make it in that number, then you lose, and then you get sent back to the beginning. Although later on there are like checkpoints and stuff. It seems like I didn't understand how that worked though. But it's like weird because obviously that's the point of a roguelike where you go through and then if you die, you start over from the beginning and you do your run again. That's really weird for golf, in my opinion. And I went through, I think, like 12 of the holes because I did the first two worlds. And after that, I was kind of like, I kind of don't want to do the third world. Um, and so I think by the end of the year, uh, like right now, I'm thinking like I'm not going to finish this game, and it's going to be sort of like Cave Story, which I didn't finish, and I'm not going to. But that's to be determined by the end of the year, because maybe I'll pick it back up, but as of right now, I don't think I will. Death Stranding. I've been playing this for forever, it feels like, and right now, I think what's happening is I think it's a very good game, but but Death Stranding is like has so much in it that I think it's inevitable that there is going to be something. Nice OBS disconnection. The light is still red. I don't feel very confident in that at all. Um, okay, well, it's green now. I'm not entirely sure what happened. Yeah. All right. It looks like it should be back, but I'm seeing it on my laptop. It does not look good at all. I refresh. Is it okay? Yeah. I don't know what happened. I feel like something like that happened during my test stream. I attributed it to a download that was going. Visuals are screwy. Yeah. I refreshed and it looks okay. But yeah, that's yeah. Hopefully that does not happen a lot because my CPU usage is below 1%. So it makes no sense for it to happen. Okay. Well, I guess I'll continue. Death Stranding. There's a lot happening in Death Stranding. There's a lot of stuff. Um, I think there's a good chance that anyone playing Death Stranding will find something that they like about it as well. Um, there's always there's in a game with so much, it's hard to like everything. Is basically what I'm getting to. And for me, I think I've realized that I don't like stealth games that much. Um, there were a lot of stealth games or stealth kind of games that I played when I was younger, like on like Flash. I think a popular one was like the one where you cheat off the kid during the test and you have to avoid the teacher. Not a fan of that game. Um, just because like I guess it's sort of like a horror adjacent type of thing, and I'm not a fan of horror games either. Uh, there's also the fact that like right now I'm trying to finish a lot of games and stealth and like yeah, stealth is the kind of thing where you stand there and you wait for your opportunity, and maybe that's contributing to it as well, where it's like I want to finish the game, but the right thing to do is to go slowly. But I think overall, it really is just like in general, I'm not a fan of stealth games, and I think the only time I really completed a stealth game was my sister had this game, that I don't remember what it's called, but there's like a part or multiple parts where the rich girl main character has to like sneak out of her mansion to meet her poor guy boyfriend, and that was like a stealth mini game. Um, because you sneak out of the mansion, you have to avoid the guards, and my sister didn't like it because it was, because it's kind of like horror adjacent. And she's like, "Can you do this?" So, and I was like, "Yeah, I can do it." And that's like the only time that I played that sort of stuff. Um, and so that's why Death Stranding is taking such a long time for me. It's just that stealth thing is like not for me, I think. And every time I hear in the thing, it's like, "Oh, you're gonna be going into a a stealth area." I'm just like, man, I don't want to do it. I do think the game is good. I already said that, but it may take a very long time for me to finish. Lastly, we have multiverses. Um, this game, so I guess we'll start from the beginning here. It was announced, it came out in beta, and they did say it was a beta, although many people thought that it wasn't, um, and they were very vague about it. Um, and many people also assume that, you know, and I think they did actually say like their plan was to transition the beta into the full release, and then and that would be that. But in 2023, they announced that they would be taking the game down, and of course, everyone either thought, that they had literally said that they were gonna um, into the release without taking it down, or they thought it was already the full release, and they were like, "What?" Um, and technically, they didn't like really take it down. It's just they took all of the online down. But that's like the same thing. Um, and it seems like the reason that they ended up taking it down was because they wanted to port it to a new engine. And so that's what they did. And then the Multiversus full release happened end of May. And of course, it looks like very different now. Particularly like the menus and stuff, just because that's what they were doing when they were porting it to the new engine. Um, I guess sort of an opportunity to easily revamp everything else. Um, but in doing that, they it felt like they lost a lot of features, and I guess that's where it ends. They felt like they lost a lot of features. Um, but since then, they've been pushing out a number of updates, and it feels like things are slowly being added back, and things are like getting better. And so I don't want to really rate it now because even though they are adding things back, I do think the um, monetization of the game, if you thought it was bad in the beta, it's even worse now. Um, and I feel like it's gotten to a point where it's like overtaking the enjoyment of like anything else. And the gameplay, I think, is fine. It's really just that monetization that's just become completely overbearing. And I would say right now, my opinion of the game, it hovered a little bit right at the beginning. But as I've realized that monetization, it's like, I don't think the game is good, even though like the gameplay I think is okay. It works for what it is, and everything else, it's not bad. It's just they're really just pushing that monetization. Um, but we'll see, because there are updates that happen, relatively frequently. It's only been a month. Maybe by the end of the year, things will be different. Um, maybe they'll be good. You know, maybe I kind of hope that like maybe not this year, but like maybe next year in 2025 they announced that this was actually a second beta and they're going to take the game down again. I think that would be really funny. Wow, cheap viewers? Okay. Um, but yeah, I think it'd be really funny, to the point of where like it would be good. Like right now, that they take down the game for a year and it comes back and it's like even more monetized. It's like this is all bad. But if they do it again, then that's kind of funny. Um, and it's at the point where like, I'm not hoping for a lot for multiverses. So, maybe they can do that and it'll be kind of funny. Um, as an alternative, of course, to actually becoming really good, which would be very much preferred. And that's pretty much that. So let's get into the games. I think I can talk very quickly about, because I had set, you can see here I have 2024 plan and it's upcoming games, upcoming months. I did have this here in this big, like, messy sheet. There's tons of stuff just everywhere. My original play order for the first 6 months. Um, a lot of games I did play, just completely out of order. Um, a couple I didn't play, like the Tomb Raider series. I don't know when I'll get to that. Doom 64, I didn't play because Doom 2 is the current club game. So I thought like, oh, I'll play that first, and then I'll play Doom 64, assuming I enjoy Doom 2. I did play most of the other stuff, I think, not Frostpunk or Tales from the Unseen or Hollow Knight, but those are still in the works for the future. Um, so yeah, games rating is next. The games I actually finished here, starting with Transistor. Let me just do a quick check on that bitrate thing happening. It looks really good now. Hopefully it stays that way. All right, so Transistor, um, that's been good. Good. What can I say? I played this a while ago. It almost feels like so far away. Um, Let me move this currently talking about area. Transistor is a game by the creators of Hades. Hades, of course, very critically acclaimed game. Transistor is one of their older games. Um, Still very well liked. I think all of their games are pretty well received. Um, Visually, it looks very similar to Hades. Um, and I believe the gameplay mechanics are kind of similar. At least that's what I've been told. In that in Transistor, you get you get attacks, and then you can set the attack as your attack or as like a modifier to another attack you have, and it gives it a special effect. And then you go around and you beat enemies. There is also a really big mechanic where you can on a small cooldown you can hit, I believe it was the space bar, but I'm not sure. Uh, and that pauses the game, and then it turns it into like a turn-based game where you can be like, I'll move my character from here to here, and then I'll do attack one in this direction. Um, or I'll move over here, and you can set up like a big combo with that. Obviously there's a limit to the amount of movement and attacks you can do, and different attacks take up different amounts of that bar, that meter. It is very cool. And of course, if you don't want to play that way, you don't have to, although it is very broken, um, especially with all the combos you can build. Uh, Story, I think I don't want to like go too in depth about any stories, just in case anyone wants to play these games. But it is at least the premise. You have a talking sword who the way I believe it works is the you were attacked, the player character was attacked, and then your significant other blocked the attack, but was hit by this sword that absorbed his consciousness. So now you, with this sword that has your significant other's consciousness, are gonna go through the city to figure out the whole mystery, I guess, behind your attack, and what the ultimate plan was there. It's it's a very like what's the feel here? Like maybe like a noir kind of story. Not exactly, but like the sword has like a very like raspy kind of voice that you'll hear in like a noir story. The player character doesn't really talk, um, so it does very much feel that way, and it's it's cool. Really trying to remember everything back from January. I think that's all I really have to say about it. It's a nice story. Um, I I wouldn't say it's like the greatest story. Oh, what's this? What's this time? Hello, sorry for bothering you. I want to offer promotion of your channel. Whoa, it's rare to get two. Well, this guy is ban evasion. It tells me this person's suspicious due to ban evasion. Very interesting. I think that's a good cutoff point for Transistor. Um, Nice game. The gameplay is very nice. The story is very nice. I wouldn't say it's like the greatest of all time, um, or anything. I don't know if I think if it was, I would have a bit more to say about it. Um, it is a very musical game. You can like there's a button that lets you hum the stuff, and that's quite nice as well. Um, I do think a lot of the music tends to not really be my kind of music though, and maybe that affects it, but I will give it a 4 out of 5. One Night Hot Springs, this is a quick one because it's a short game. Um, it's a game where, it's a visual novel. Um, you play as a trans person who is invited to a hot springs. And it's like a very simple game. I believe it was originally made in a language that's not English and then was translated to English. Um, it's, I guess if you're trying to introduce the troubles of a trans person, this is a nice game to start there. Um, Otherwise, like it's overall, a pretty lighthearted game. Um, and it is kind of just a visual novel that, in terms of, you know, like the video game spectrum, visual novels, I feel like don't do that much most of the time. They can, um, but I would say, at least for me, this one, not so much, although I do think it has a good message, but I will give it a 2 out of 5. Nights into Dreams is next. So Nights into Dreams is I believe it was made in the 90s, made by the Sonic team. Um, and I guess that's all I really have to say about its history. Made by the Sonic team. So the gameplay, it has that sort of like Sonic feel, I think, at least, because the amount of Sonic games I've played is pretty low, actually. Um, my experience with this game, I think like the first hour, I was kind of like whatever on it. It's pretty cool. You fly around, you collect a certain amount of like glowing balls, I guess. You reach the goal, within the time limit, and it sends you to like a second path in the same level, and then like a third path and a fourth path, and then after that, it sends you to a boss, which is on a different level. Uh, and like I was saying, the first hour I was kind of like, yeah, it's fine, but like something about like right after that first hour, I was like, this is like one of the best games I've ever played. I don't really know why. Um, but like I can explain things that I liked, of course. But I feel like what it is, it's the term is it campy? Is that the term I'm looking for? It's a very like game that sort of like I guess I don't know. Like I think campy is just the word I'm looking at. It feels just nice to play. Like I feel like it's good. Um, I really like the just all the extra things that are like completely useless to the actual game. Cozy, that might be it. Um, I feel like cozy is like not exactly the term I'm looking for because that terminology has sort of ended up in like the realm of like Animal Crossing and stuff, and that's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it's close. Um, but I like there's like random things in the background you can occasionally interact with. Like there's actually an achievement in this game where you like breed like these like chow equivalents basically, and like you do that while just flying around, and it just happens. And realizing like that I could actually like control my character and it wasn't like just like a random thing was like really cool. Um, like the level design, I think like a lot of the ideas that they show in the levels, like the one where it suddenly shifts to a top-down perspective and you watch a car drive around on the ground is like super cool. Um, yeah. The bosses, I think that first hour I really struggled with the boss and understanding what to do. And really once I got past that, it was all like pretty smooth sailing there. Um, I think the beginning where you sort of just like you start as like a random like little boy or girl, and then like things just attack you, and then you have to run to Knights is like Knights being the main character of this game, and then you sort of just transform into him or something. Like I don't really understand what happens, but it's all like I think it all makes the game better. And everything about this is like it all sort of just builds up, even though the gameplay is literally just like just this basically. Like there's just everything around it I like. Um, even like the cutscenes are like kind of stupid, but like I like those too. I like the end song a lot. Big fan of that end song. Uh, so yeah, it is easily a 5 out of 5 for me. Die in the Dungeons Origins. This is a very short game, I believe, um, as well. A lot of these games are actually kind of short if you look. Yeah. Uh, but this game in particular, I believe it's like technically a prologue to uh, an upcoming Die in the Dungeon that's going to come out. Um, unlike the other prologues and demos, which I feel like I labeled them under that moniker of prologues and demos because I felt like it was very clearly, a section of a game and not so much, yeah, very clearly a section of the game. And Die in the Dungeons, unlike those, felt like it could be kind of the whole game, pretty much. This is a roguelike, and it gives you sort of a grid with like little like things where you can place your dice, which you get. Um, and it's been a while since I played it, so I kind of forget. But like you get a bunch of dice and you can place them on the board strategically. So even though the dice is random, you can strategically uh, sort of plan your attack on this grid against the enemies. And that's very cool. And then they have like when you I think when you beat a couple guys, you'll get like an upgrade. Um, sometimes there's a store where you can buy stuff and they modify the grid or maybe the cards. It's it does all the sort of like roguelike things the way that I like it. And it's strategic, very strategic. It feels like very enjoyable for me. I believe I will give it a 3 just because it is kind of just like a little short game and not so much a full game. Next we have Ape Out. Ape Out. This is what's I'm looking for another word here. It's not so much anxiety, but like the kind of feeling you might have during anxiety where it's like you can really feel like that the chest pumping while you're playing this game because it's like it's intense. That's what it is. It's an intense game. Um, and what it is just like a top-down, view, and you play as like a gorilla, and you're just trying to get from one end to the other. And there's like a little bit of stealth before you meet any of the enemies who are just like humans with guns, usually. Um, and you have one attack, pretty much. I mean, technically you can grab things, so you have two attacks actually, because you can grab and throw. But otherwise, you kind of just like you can push the guys, and like for the most part, it kills them in one hits, and some of the bigger guys, it's like two hits. And you are as you take out people, and as you are seen, and you sort of escape that stealth mode, kind of, the music really like uh, starts you know to get intense, and it's really cool because the music is it's not like a static soundtrack or anything. It matches up to when you do the action, um, and like when things happen, pretty much. But it is like the music gets super intense, and like I feel like after playing this like an hour, I was like, I need to stop because I can just feel like boom, boom. Um, Still a very fun game though. I think that's yeah, think that's all I've got to say about it, actually. It's a very fun game, very intense. Um, there's kind of a story, but like not really. I would give it a 4. Poke Clicker. All right, so I saw someone in Discord, I believe it was Catabolism, playing this game. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, well now I have to play it, and that sucks because I spent a lot of time um, in years prior playing on Newgrounds and collecting medals, and a lot of the easy medals tend to come from clicker games and what's the other game? The other type of game. Um, I don't remember, but it's not that important. But like clicker idle games are like they're easy achievements because you kind of just sit there and click or you wait. Um, and playing all these clicker games to collect all these achievements, I realize that I hate them. They're not real games. You just sit there and you click, or you sit there and you wait, and that's not good gameplay. Um, yeah, but when I saw Poke Clicker, I was like, but it's Pokemon, so I gotta see what that's about. Um, Very unfortunate that this exists, in my opinion. Um, yeah, I almost want to go on a tangent about those like other clicker games because I feel like those clicker games are some of the worst games I've ever played. Like especially the ones where like their goal is not so much to make a clicker game, but to make a worse clicker game. Like they're like competing to make the worst one for some reason. Um, people who make clicker games for some reason they're like we got to make a game where you can't use an auto clicker because everyone really wants to play a game where you click by yourself. Um, that's a huge tangent. Um, and Poke Clicker is the focus here. You can use an auto clicker for Poke Clicker, which is very good. um, the actual game, Poke Clicker, what it is, other than clicking and waiting, um, it basically takes you through the entire story of the Pokemon games, starting from the Kanto region, right? So you meet Professor Oak, you go through, all the stuff, right? The gym, Silph Co, Elite Four, everything that's there. I'm very quickly just rushing through some of the few major events, but like everything is there. Um, Obviously, because it's like a clicker game, a lot of it just gets like a couple screens, maybe a little dialogue. Um, but if you've played the games, it is like cool that it's referencing that stuff. Like oh, there's Professor Oak. Oh, this is the Silph segment, Um, and like when you move on to the next region, uh, which is I believe it's Kanto Jodo, but I forget if the Orange Islands are like sandwiched in between. I think there's like it's Kanto. There's a little bit of Orange Islands, and it's Jodo, Hoenn, Orange Islands, the rest of Orange Islands, and then Or, which is like Pokemon, uh, Pokemon XD, right? Um, Pokemon XD, and then the other stadium game, right? Um, and it's like the ones that I didn't play, I'm like, well, obviously it's referencing what's happening in the games. But the ones I did play, I'm like, oh, it's this happening. Here's like Wingull, Pico from Hoenn, that's happening, and it is pretty cool. And the only thing I really don't like about the game, other than the fact that it's a clicker game, is that to get to the next region, you have to catch every Pokemon in the prior region. So like in Kanto, you have to catch, all 151 Pokemon to get to Johto, and then same for Johto to get to Hoenn, and then like Sinnoh, and I think Aura is counted as like a sub-region of Hoenn, so like that one you don't have to catch everything because it's all like the same Pokemon. Um, but it gets kind of difficult because you have to sort of grind for that percentage catch chance, which like you know in the clicker game, it's like the Pokemon appears, has a health bar, you click it down, and then if you have a Pokeball, you have a percentage chance to catch it. And the legendaries, they only appear in one spot and they only appear a percentage of the time. And then you only have a percentage to catch them. And it's like kind of frustrating to grind the legendaries to get to the next region. So I sort of decided partway through that Cynthia at the end of the Sinnoh region was the end of the game for me, and that I would be done with that. I think that makes sense. Cynthia tends to be considered sort of like a final boss character. Maybe the final boss, the final boss character. I don't really know. But yeah, clicker game, cool references. It might be the best clicker game that I've ever played. And I almost gave it a one when I was really thinking about it earlier. But I gotta put it, above every other clicker game just so that they know that this one's the best, in my opinion. And so it will get a two. That quest is next. I don't have a ton to say about the game. It's very simple. Um, you pretty much you play as like a anthropomorphic cat. Wears armor, has a sword, or a staff if you equip him with a staff, um, or whatever else you equip him with, and you sort of just run around, uh, sort of like a 3D world. I guess if you want to think like maybe like the DS Zelda games, Toon Link, in like not Wind Waker, um, the DS games, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, kind of like that. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. It's not very ambitious, in my opinion, but it works and it's fine. It's a 2.5. Zoo. This is a an ocean game where you are in the ocean. Um, you play as some sort of diver. I feel like that's not really explained, but I don't know if it really needs to be. I'm sure if you looked into it, you could see the theories and maybe what's confirmed. Um, I think you are some sort of like robot is confirmed, but it's not that important um, to the story at all because it is mostly a silent game where you swim around and you enjoy the audio and the scenery. Um, there is like a storyline going on with like a shark and everything. I won't really get into that. I feel like it's uh, not the it's like a pretty standard story I think, and like it really uh, takes a back seat to just the visual spectacle and also audio with that visual that this game is uh, in in its biggest moments. The in those moments, I think it really succeeds. I think it really does well. I think when you see, when it shows you the new sea creature for that big moment, you're like, there it is, and that's really good. Um, and I did sort of hover around like a 3 and a 4, but I do think, maybe, a couple weeks after I played, I was like, yeah, this was a really good experience. It is a 4. Next, we have Super Meat Boy. Um, this is how do I start describing it? Well, it's a classic, speed running game, skill game where you play as Meat Boy and you do a bunch of parkour around spikes and saws to reach the end. Um, and there's like 20 levels in each world, and I think there were 6. Well, there's 5 worlds with like 20, or I think it was 20 levels. Maybe it was 25. Um, and you can skip some of them. So like the leniency is there for, if you can't complete a couple of the levels. And then the final chapter, I believe you are required to complete um, all of the levels, and I think there's 5 and the boss. Um, and I think gameplay wise, the game definitely still holds up. It's very smooth to control. Um, the levels, of course, uh, are all very purposefully designed, which I think that's why the sequel, Super Meat Boy Forever, which is like has some random generated aspects to it, is not as well received. Um, I gotta say, yeah, it's a fun game to play. The parkour, I enjoy it, even though it is difficult. Um, I did have like a video that I posted of my completion of like the second to last level, where you can see like I died a ton of times. Um, the story, I think, doesn't age as well. Um, and honestly, I'm not even sure if it's just the aging or if it's just like not even my humor at all. And like the game does make like a lot of sort of crude uh, 2000s humor kind of jokes. I guess it feels like. I think that humor is like still around today though. Like you've got you've got like Skibidi Toilet, right? I feels like that kind of stuff, is in this game sometimes, and I don't think it's that funny. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's all I gotta say. I feel like it does bring the story down. The overall story arc where you're just going to rescue the princess basically is standard, and then it's filled with a lot of stuff that I'm not really a fan of, and so it will go to 3 because I really enjoyed the gameplay, but I think parts of it are kind of outdated. Um, and I can't enjoy it, or maybe not outdated, but not my humor. I can't enjoy it as much as uh, other games that are very good. Okay, prologues and demos here. I think it was around this time I was just like, I just want to play a bunch of different games, so let me just see what prologues there are. Um, I've got them down here, and since they're like unlike Die in the Dungeon's Origins, which I think is supposed to be a prologue, these very much felt like not complete, and so it's kind of hard to rate them. So I have this small section here where I basically rate them as like average, wasn't that very interesting to me, and then I thought was pretty interesting. So I'll get through this very quickly. For the Unbound is sort of like a visual novel type of game, but you get to control the characters, so it's like uh, Night in the Woods, right? You get to move back and forth. And the story was pretty interesting. Um, you play as a person, uh, play as just some random boy, and he's hanging out with his friend. Um, and they're in some like rundown, like abandoned uh, in car or something like that. It's like their secret hideout or something. And then they sort of talk, and then like I left something at my house, but I don't want to get it. And so you go on the quest to get it. Um, you sort of get to see, the town a little bit as you're walking through. Um, you get to the house. You have to like sneak in because you don't want to talk to the parents. Um, and then like that's roughly where the game ends. I believe you leave the house and it starts to like storm, and like a when you get back, there's sort of like a flood kind of incident, and that's where like the game ends basically, like on a little cliffhanger like that, where like there's like a bunch of water or something. I think you fall into the river basically is what happens, and then the prologue ends. Um, and then it shows you a whole bunch of scenes that looked really interesting. It's like I can't remember them all, but like obviously you survive that river thing, or at least a little what it looks like. Um, and I kind of wanted to end what I was saying like a couple minutes ago, but I feel like I'm forgetting something about this game that I wanted to say. It's the main gameplay mechanic that I'm forgetting. Um, you have a book that you get to look into the minds of people, and you can sort of um, I guess see what they're feeling and maybe um, change stuff about them, and that was like really interesting. That's basically I just wanted to mention that gameplay mechanic that I thought was very interesting. So it goes into three. Veneer's Tactics is a tactical game, tactics game, Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem, that kind of stuff. Um, I'm a big fan of those games. This one did feel very much uh, like it did tactics, and then uh, that was sort of like the story didn't really stand out, and the tactics was just like it really felt like just move and you have like three attacks, but it doesn't really matter. And I did not find it that interesting, even though um, I usually am a big fan of the tactic games. When the Past was around, I think is like an earlier game of the creators of a space for the Unbound. Um, this one is like a point and click game though, and the story is like silent. And I think for a prologue, it just like kind of wasn't interesting. Maybe if there was more to show, it's kind of hard for a prologue, I think, and it is point and click, and it is very simple. Dead Await is like a zombie game. It's one of those games where like um, you get like a ton of items, and it's like, what do I even do with all of these items? And then I couldn't figure out how to heal in the game, but the game ended before I had to, so I guess that was fine. Um, yeah, there's like there is a battle mechanic, which is like the card-based battle mechanics, where it's like they draw like a couple cards, and you choose, within your action points, like Hearthstone, right? You can choose to do this attack, which costs 1 point, or stuff like that. And then it goes to like the overworld, which hard to explain, but it very much feels like one of those like free zombie games, and it was confusing. I did not the story was also like there, but it didn't really do much other than be like I'm a guy in a zombie apocalypse, and I'll meet up with other guys in the zombie apocalypse. Shogun Showdown was a roguelike with slots, and each movement is a slot, each like attack is a slot. Pretty standard stuff for a roguelike. I think for a tactical roguelike, it was okay. Hills Noir is a noir game. Um, I Let's see if I can remember this. It's also, one of those like walk around and like talk to people type of games. Um, and I want to say the scenario was like, or the environment was very cool, but the scenario was kind of, not that interesting to me, where you play as a raccoon detective, and you want to sneak into this club because there's maybe some sort of crime happening. Um, and Yeah, I mean, that's basically the whole prologue. At the end, there's like a little like reveal of the potential crime happening. Um, but that story ended up not really catching me. But I did think the environment, that sort of noir feel, was quite nice. Put it right in the middle. Looking for Aliens is like a hidden object game, but I really enjoyed it because there was more than just the objects you could interact with. Um, Object games maybe is way back I was talking about um, easy achievement in Newgrounds. Hidden object games are up there for sure. Much more enjoyable than clicker games. This was pretty cool. It's a wrap. Um, you play as like a movie actor, and he's doing like action scenes. And it's like a side-scrolling, action platformer type of thing. But rather than being, Indiana Jones or something like that. You're like an actor playing them, and when you fail, it's like uh, take two, and then you get the control, sort of the props, like or the timing of the props or whatever. You're like, oh, the boulder here will fall at this time. This platform will move at this time. Like you can kind of change the stuff, and it's sort of like a puzzle game in that sense. And that was cool. Story is also kind of there. It wasn't that interesting. The main character is like an actor kind of full of himself. I don't know what happens afterward. Maybe he humbles down. Who knows? Mandili felt like a very Undertale-esque, RPG kind of thing. The prologue, wasn't too stand out. So I'll give it a 2.5 and move on. Spindle, you play as was the character silent? I don't remember if he talked or not, but you play as like a Reaper kind of character who has a pig, follows around and talks to him, and you do a little exploring. It's very much like that DS Zelda game type of gameplay. Um, but there wasn't too much happening in the prologue, and I don't think it really stood out. Shino Red Witch, another RPG, very simple. The premise was a little interesting. Um, but ultimately, uh, even more so than like Mandilia, where I felt like stuff was kind of happening, this one very much felt like I walked around and talked to people and that was it. So it was not as interesting. Rising Hell was a game where, how did I put it? It's sort of like a, is it a roguelike? I don't know. I guess it is, right? You run around, you attack the enemies, and you go up, rising, um, and then you can gain upgrades later on, I believe. So yeah, pretty much a roguelike. Pretty much a game where you just jump, you do, the platforming upwards, and then anytime you get to an enemy, you just kind of mash the attack buttons, and it does a bunch of cool stuff. And honestly, that's kind of hype. Spiritfarer, I think unlike a lot of these games, I knew about Spiritfarer beforehand, and it's like it is a acclaimed game. I think I did not realize that there was like a lot of gameplay stuff you could do, um, like the fishing and like the house building, and you also walk around and talk to people. There was there was actually like a lot you could do in this game, and that was I feel like I can see why it was acclaimed, and I am definitely interested in it. Fall of Porcupine, I think, models itself very much uh, with Night in the Woods, um, and I could definitely see it being very interesting. But because it's just a prologue, uh, not a lot happened, so it goes here. Um, and then we have Glitched, and that's the last of this one. And then we'll have another section here later. But was an RPG. The premise was you play as a NPC character to the protagonist hero who is about to go off on his big journey. And you're like, no, I'm gonna, it's like, good luck, I'll stay home. But then like a glitch happens and like corrupts or spirits away the player character, and you decide, well, now I gotta go and find him. That is And then you go on a big story, and I think this game models itself on Earthbound. I believe that's what the thing said, the description, and it is it's very is homely the word I'm looking for. It's very homely. The characters feel uh, cool to talk to, and it's there's a little bit of the battle mechanic which I looks like pretty much just like not Undertale, Earthbound. Um, yeah, very interesting. There's like some sort of deep mechanic happening where you can, depending on your actions, you change colors, and then I guess you can do different stuff. Not super touched on in the prologue though, but it shows it off a little bit, I believe. Like it explains it, and then you don't really do that much with it though. Um, I did look a bit more into this game, and I believe there was like a testing, like an alpha tester thing happening, like soon after I finished it. And I don't know if the game is gonna come out soon or anything, but like it's uh it's not out yet, but it is moving along. Like I think the rest of these games already out. This one is one that I would have to wait for. So that's that. Alan Wake is next. This was the club game for January, but it took me until March to finish it off. I played a bunch of it, and then I was like, I was kind of feeling like this is a horror game, and I don't really want to continue playing it for now. But I got to it eventually because it is an interesting game. Um, I think I sort of realized with this game and with Death Stranding that I played concurrently, I guess, um, that there are games where people complain about the gameplay, right? Alan Wake, you sort of just run around, you shine the flashlight on enemies, and then you shoot them. Death Stranding has like very basic combat um, that people tend to say like isn't that great. Um, uh, the melee is what you have for a while in Death Stranding, and you just hit one button to punch and kick. And then you get the guns, but it's like you don't really want to use the guns because there's a whole story thing that transitions to a gameplay mechanic that makes you want to avoid using the guns, um, particularly specifically the lethal ones, right? The non-lethal guns you can kind of use, but like those type of the gameplay in Alan Wake and in Death Stranding is like considered to be negatives, but I sort of realized like for me personally, I was like this seems fine. And maybe it's because I don't play a lot of shooters or something like that. But like, I was like, this, I shine the flashlight. It takes off the darkness, and then you can kill the zombies. Is basically what it is. Um, and so like, I had no issues with the gameplay, but I did have issues with it being a horror game essentially with zombies and darkness. Um, People, do say, and when this game was set as the January club game, that it's like kind of not really hard though. So it isn't jump scare horror for the most part. Obviously it's got to do it like one time, um, but it's never gonna like Five Nights at Freddy's you or anything, right? Like the jump scare is gonna be there's a light and then it just turns off, right? Like that's your jump scare. Um, but even so, it's like there's something about horror games that I think I don't like horror games, and that's what's tough for this game because I think the gameplay is fine, and I think the story is really interesting where you play as Alan Wake, who is like he's a writer, right? Alan Wake, the writer, and he writes books, and he writes horror books, and of course the premise, which is told to you. I think it's like technically not told to you until a little bit in, but it's very clear that you are, as you pick up pages, that you are playing out the story of a book that somebody, presumably you would assume it's you, but maybe it's not you. I forget what the ending was, if it is you or not. Um, but that's what it is. Like you're a writer, you write horror stories, and now you're in a horror story that like it's assumed that you wrote it. Um, and it's a really cool premise. And the story is very, very meta about it, as you would expect of like, the story of an author in his own story. It gets very meta. And, that's a really cool thing when they pull it off. Um, when we had the book club meeting, I realized I haven't been using this. Uh, it's okay. Um, we had the post meeting of like after everyone played the game, and then we discuss it. Um, a video was posted that I actually have not watched still. I don't know if I will, but it was like Alan Wake, the best three, the best 6 out of 10 game uh, that I've played. Um, that was what the video was called. And I saw reading, just online discussions about it. Like people were posting this video saying like, this is the video. And then in the book club discussion, this video came up as well. And I think that, um, that 6 out of 10 rating, best 6 out of 10 rating, uh, really resonates with people. And I was sort of thinking about like, where do I put this game? Because I thought the story was super cool, super meta. The gameplay I was fine, but like the horrors, like I'm kind of not that into. Um, I thought back, even though I haven't seen the video, the term, best 6 out of 10, I'm like, this sounds correct. And so I will give Alan Wake, a 3 out of 5, 6 out of 10. It's probably the best one. It just feels correct. The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. This is a game where uh, where Sonic dies. Yep. 5 out of 5, and we move on. Now, it is a visual novel. Um, what it is, it's Amy's birthday party, and she like set up for the party. It's gonna be like a murder mystery, and Sonic is murdered, and it's like not supposed to be like it's not an actual murder, right? Like you sort of what am I saying here? It's a birthday party thing, right? Like an event. Um, and it's pretty cool. And of course, stuff ends up happening, and there is an actual villain and everything about that. Um, and it's quite a good story, I think. You know, very simple. No like huge implications on anything, but it does pretty well. Uh, the gameplay, mostly, visual novel type of thing. You read dialogue, you click the character to talk to them, and they say some stuff. Uh, there's there's a little bit of a puzzle aspect where like you have to like you get an item and maybe you'll use it at a specific time, but it's very basic. Um, and the main gameplay is in the form of like a mini game where you uh, sort of play you sort of play Subway Surfers basically, and you want to collect a certain amount of rings uh, in that Subway Surfers mini game to advance the story. Um, and yeah, that kind of stuff. It's very simple. I don't know if it's very stand out, but the music of it was like super good. And I was like, I actually kind of wanted to keep playing Subway Surfers so I could listen to that music. Um, considering what I've learned about the history of Sonic games, uh, I think this game does pretty well. Um, it is ultimately, very simplistic, visual novel, Subway Surfers, and not at the same time, right? You got to put them together to actually reach it, to actually reach the success. I think I will give it a 2.5, right in the middle. It was a good game. Uh, yeah, but very, nothing really big. As Tez is next. This is I mentioned way back at the beginning how Curse to Golf is like a golf roguelike hybrid. Aztez is what are those games like Civilization or The Settlers, like those type of games, plus beat 'em ups is what this is a cross between. And this is an interesting genre crossover. But what it ultimately sums up to in Aztez is, uh, you know, rather than it doesn't feel very strategic, basically, you know, to expand your territory, to get the items to whatever. You pretty much, you know, click the thing, and then you win the beat 'em up, and then that's what it is. And it makes it feel less strategic, which is undermines the that civilization strategic aspect of it. Kind of in the same way that Curse to Golf, the roguelike, kind of undermines the golf, it feels like. This one very much, it feels like the strategy is just not even there. Because in Curse to Golf, you still golf. In Aztez, I think it's just like a boring beat 'em up, basically. Um, and it was an interesting idea, but it did not work for me at all. I will give it a 1. I'll take her was a lot shorter than I thought it was. I did because this game's what's that thing called? If you know in like Pokemon Ruby Sapphire Emerald, they have like strength puzzles, right? Where you push the rocks around to form the path. It's kind of like that, um, where most of the levels, you want to move in a certain way to reach the end, which is and the end is you want to reach the demon girl in each level. Um, the premise of the game is you're like forming a harem of demon girls, and yeah, it was all right. I did a couple of levels, and then like I think part of the way through, I was like, I kind of just want to finish the game. So if like I play a level a couple times and I'm not figuring it out, I'll just search for the answer because yeah, it's just sort of that I want to finish the game. There are a couple levels in this game which it stops being that type of game and it is instead a like a you have unlimited moves instead of the limited strength puzzle. It's like a strength puzzle but with limited moves. A couple of the levels are you move around and you have unlimited moves and you just want to like avoid. You want to avoid. Uh, Dodge, the laser beams or whatever, as you complete the objective on the map. And the final boss actually does this. And I thought that in particular was pretty cool. And I would be interested in playing a full game of that sort of stuff. But that was like two or three of the levels, I think. Yeah, it's a pretty short game. It took me I want to literally look 46 minutes. Maybe if I spent time actually figuring out the last couple of levels, it would have taken me, maybe 30 minutes longer even. I don't know. That seems like a little bit of an overestimate, but maybe it would be that way. Yeah. Story was it was there. Wasn't bad, but like the demon harem thing, I mean, it's not super interesting to me. It goes into 2.5. George Paradox is a um, what's the term? I guess it's like an escape room type of game where you solve the puzzles around the room, or in this case, like a little island, and then you unlock the door, and then you advance. And yeah, I think those are okay. I think they're fine. This was fine. It's pretty much just gameplay. They had little story aspects to it, but wasn't that what the story was like? The story aspects they tried to add just like did not work at all. It made no sense to me. Um, I think I would have enjoyed the game more if there wasn't just like random notes that are weird and cryptic and didn't really make that much sense to me. Of course, there's like they give you like this choice to pick like good or bad, and it's like I don't understand the point of it at all. 2.5. All right, Sonic Mania is here. Uh, let's see. So this is the first Sonic game that I've played, pretty much, right? Like, yeah, I played Nights in the Dreams. Yeah, I played the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. Um, yeah, but I think those are like the only two like Sonic related. I played Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, right? Um, but this is the first Sonic game, like real, like what Sonic the main games are. Um, and where do I even start here? So the story is like normal, it's something you could kind of ignore, but when you notice it, I think it's fine, right? It's just Sonic the character, chasing after Eggman, the villain. Yeah, and then at the end of every stage, you have a boss fight against him, I think. So that is fine. Um, gameplay is the gameplay is the main stuff. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to start here. So let's see. Previously, before playing Sonic Mania, I actually watched a couple of people play Sonic games. I think I can't remember who that was in person, but like I've watched Pastel Pearly and Max Scherzi play Sonic, and it kind of seems like uh, even though I feel like Pearly is definitely a fan of Sonic, it kind of seemed like that they don't like the game is what it felt like. Granted, it might just be that specific Sonic game they were playing, but like it was an interesting experience to where like I watch people play Sonic games and they're like it doesn't really feel like they're enjoying it. Um, and then of course I'm like, well, the games are Sonic's a super popular character. I don't know if any of his games are actually critically acclaimed, but you know they are the games that made people's childhood. Some people, of course, not everyone. Um, I'll play the one that I have, and that's Sonic Mania. And I felt, especially at the beginning, I think I felt the way it seemed like Max and Pearly were like, where I was like dying to everything, no real rhythm uh, happening for me. And I think kind of like Nights in the Dreams, about an hour in, or maybe even 2 hours in for Sonic Mania, I felt like I think no, it was yeah, because there's stages to this. So like the first hour, I was like, I feel like I understand a little bit more, and the game is better because of that. Um, then, sort of maybe like another hour later, uh, how long did I take to beat this game? 5 hours. Yeah, so maybe like 3 hours in or something. I felt like I hit another level where I was like stuck on something for a while, and then I finally got through it, and I was like, what even are the words here? Oh, I see the red bit rate again. Is my thing gonna crash? Went to yellow. Don't think I crashed, but the uh, yeah, it looks like OBS did not disconnect, but like I can see the stream is like weird connection. Yeah. Okay. Uh, seems like it's back to green. Uh, I am gonna continue here. Where even was I? There was a point in Sonic Mania where I felt like I was actually able to, like 3 hours in, I was able to beat like back-to-back levels, and I felt like I hit like a second, sort of stage of understanding. Um, and the game was even better, I guess is the word I'm going to use there. The words. Um, I do think uh, just the way Sonic is sort of like tough to build, a platformer around, right? Because you look at like Mario, right? He moves very, generically, right? He runs and he jumps uh, at pretty standard uh, speeds, right? Standard, like pretty uh, generic, I guess generic, right? Generic jump height, generic, run speed or whatever. Sonic is like huge on this momentum, and I wonder why that's happening. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wonder why that's happening. Maybe I gotta restart my computer. Um, but I think I restarted it like yesterday. I don't know. I think when I get to the end of the review, I'll restart my computer before I do the music stuff, just to see if that helps. Um, anyway, let me finish up Sonic Mania. Um, yeah, it's tough for Sonic because he's very momentum based, and like that's a very skill based thing that's kind of tough to get used to, and also you like kind of have to like learn the levels um, to get the perfect run. Um, it is just uh, hard to get used to, I guess is how I feel about it. And I will say, a couple months removed from beating the game, I do think higher of it, even after, from when I completed it. Um, I think I will still give it a 3, but yeah, maybe, maybe a while from now, maybe I'll come back to it. You know, I don't know if I'll come back to any game for a while, but like maybe I will, and I'll be like a big fan of it. Yeah, Sonic games are built around memorization and reaction, earning your flow and momentum. So it can be tough to get into as a newcomer, it seems, because they're built on the satisfaction of replayability and developing skill to earn the highs. Yeah, pretty much. Um, that being said, the one where you're on the plane is like I'm really bad at that one. I don't want to have to replay that one ever. I will say I do know that some of the older Sonic games they start you over from the beginning if you run out of lives. This one, you can start from the beginning of Act One of whatever level you're on. So I would say, absolutely more manageable because of that. Um, I wouldn't say I don't know if I would have completed it without it because, if it started from from the beginning, I probably would have used like save states or something to beat it. So kind of doesn't matter. But it's nice that it's like you can do that stuff and it's like not like in addition to being, very momentum based or something, it's like you die and then you have to start from the beginning. That's never fun. Yeah. I think that's all. I do remember I was really surprised in the final level that there was actually a timer. Um, like the whole game, I was going through like relatively, good time and the final level, it's so big and sprawling. And what happened was I got to the final boss with one death, right? You have 3 lives per level. Uh, and then I died to the timer. And then I had died one time already. I died to the timer. And then I had no idea what the boss was going to do. So I died to the boss. And then it's like, I got to start over. And I was like, man, if it weren't for that timer, I could use one life on learning the boss and then maybe win. Uh, but yeah, the timer was very surprising. I don't know if it's really that bad a thing, but yeah, every mechanic I feel like in Sonic does sort of like suck for a little bit, but like again with that sort of memorization and reaction and the flow and momentum, stuff like the underwater levels where you have to reach the bubble, it gets easier. Maybe the plane levels are like that too. Yeah, gotta stream some Sonic to get some different perspective. Maybe I'll try to stream Sonic X Shadow Generations. Yeah, I mean Mike's streaming Sonic right now, right? Which one even is that? Sonic Adventure 2, right? And he did say 6 out of 10 right now, which is where I have Sonic Mania, right? 3 out of 5, 6 out of 10. Although I would probably say like 7 in terms of like the tier 3 or whatever. Um, uh, but yeah, and I think Max, the most recent Sonic game he rated, no, actually no, he always rated them negatively. But uh, yeah, I do think the Sonic games are good. Uh, Sonic Six Shadow Generations definitely sounds, it all does still interest me. Um, where like I do want to understand Sonic, right? It's such a, it's a thing. A lot of people, YouTubers or whatever, they're like, yeah, Sonic, a lot of fun. Obviously replaying the game. Maybe they have a video where they're like, not very good replay on replay 10 years later. But like, even so, I feel like there's something there with Sonic that I need to make sure that like either, maybe I don't enjoy it, but maybe I do, and I want to find that out for sure. Uh, I would definitely be interested in seeing some, you know, Sonic's X Shadow Generations just to try and further figure out that thing. And I do still have your the recommendations on the Sonic games for 3D Sonics written down on this sheet, I think somewhere. Um, we'll see if I ever get to that though, because like, yeah, it's gonna be, I have to buy those games, which I'm trying to avoid buying stuff. But maybe there'll be a time where I'll be like, oh, maybe it's just time to play Sonic. I don't know. 20 Small Mazes, very short game. Um, Almost like not really a game, but I really enjoyed it. Just a bunch of little puzzles. Um, a bunch of maze solving. Every maze was like a little unique, which I liked, and that was cool. And I want to rate it because I'm not trying to like discriminate, I guess. Um, when it comes to a top 100 list, which I kind of want to share at the very end of this section, I do have like 15-minute long Newgrounds Flash games because like that's just how it is. Hidden Lands was a hidden object game, but it kind of wasn't that good. Kind of boring. Um, it works as a hidden object game, uh, but you know, it wasn't that interesting. I kind of just played it and I was like, yeah, this is fine. It's hidden object. We got more prologues and demos here. All right, let's see if I can remember. Actually, I can just look at this. I've got it. I can pull it here. See what my pre-rating of these were. Panorama. All right, Panorama here is a game where you sort of you get like blocks that are like it kind of looks like this maybe like but it's like hexagonal. But you have like a red if red is like desert maybe, and orange is like beach, and yellow is grassland or whatever like that. You get like a block that has like three like one, two, three or something like that. Um, Maybe you'll get one with like all three desert, something like that, and you build. And when you um, connect like a desert next to a desert, it levels up the desert, and that's basically all this is. Is you just want to level up your environment, the desert, the houses, the water, and yeah, it's interesting. It's strategic. Okay. Pages of Time was a side-scrolling puzzle thing where you stop time. Um, I think it was definitely a foreign game. I forget if it was like Korean or Japanese, and then translated to English. And I was like reading the dialogue, and I was like, "Yep, that's a grammar mistake," but it makes sense because it's like foreign translated, and you don't think the person speaks English, um, at least not really an English speaker. Um, it's okay. I don't think. I'm trying to think about this. Yeah, it was okay. The puzzles were, they weren't very standout. I think, it was just like normal puzzles where you stop time and you pull switches, and then maybe a little bit of platforming. Um, the dialogue, honestly, even if it was like perfectly translated, I wonder if it would still be because it was a little hard to follow. But I think the maybe the tone, I guess, is what. Yeah, looks like I'm really having problems with this. Um, yeah, it's weird that it's only like a couple seconds. It's so strange. Um, Let me try and get through everything quickly. Oh, nice, a antivirus pop up. Okay, you can see that this is just my desktop. Uh, but it just time is a two. The you know it was an okay game, but like nothing really stood out at all, and nothing that it showed in the prologue would bring me back to it. Um, Epiphany This is a game made by the Melee player Kira, who of course is known for being a former top 100 player. Oh, red light again. Uh, what is happening here? It didn't disconnect and it's back to green. Um, Kira, uh, former top 100 player known for SSBM tutorials, being a major part of that. Also, currently runs a somewhat controversial, like Christian something YouTube channel. Um, Little controversial. I don't really know the status of that since that was actually a while ago when it was became notable in like the Smash scene where they're like, look at this video. Um, but Epiphany City is like a game that he uh, worked on, with a team of a couple other people, and it's a pretty simple puzzle game where you can like take something like a chair, which let me look at that. Try to do it with the webcam. It's like this, right? But then you can rotate it and upside down. It's a four, right? That kind of stuff, and that's pretty cool. Um, the prologue was pretty interesting. I did take a further look into it. I do think the game uh, ultimately totally forgot about that character controversy until now. Yeah, I did do a check on that YouTube channel, and he is still uploading the occasional video on it. So that's still active. I don't know how controversial it is, but like I think anytime you get into religion, it tends to be controversial. So that's just how it is. There's a bug flying around here. Yeah. Prologue was interesting. And because of it, I did took a look into the rest of the game, which I think is less interesting, unfortunately. But the prologue was cool. Summer and Mara was it's kind of similar to like Animal Crossing, I think. You walk around, you can plant trees, you can grow plants, farming. Um, is there farming in Animal Crossing? Actually, maybe the newer ones have farming. Um, you can definitely grow stuff like flowers in Animal Crossing though, and trees. Uh, and yeah, and it was like pretty normal. And then at the end, after that prologue of like introducing like mechanics and like this very simple like who your character is, who the uh, one other character that they show you is, they show you like this big cinematic trailer where it shows you like away from this small island that's the entire prologue in this small island, and it shows you like in some like actual town talking to like other characters, and that was super like eye-catching because the gameplay and everything like it was all fine. It probably would have been a 2.5, and then like that extra stuff was like cool, and the music was nice. Not for broadcast. This seems like a super interesting idea where like you're a news broadcaster and you can kind of like maybe change to a certain news thing to, I guess, influence the news. I think is the like that seems to be the idea from the trailer, and also from the little cinematic again another trailer that they show at the end of the prologue. Um, that being said, within the prologue, it was very much an introduction of the mechanics, and I kind of very much expecting that sort of influence the news type of deal. I didn't see it in the prologue at all, and I was like kind of like not sure about this game right now because I can't tell how much that sort of aspect that I think is really interesting is actually in the game. But if it does it, super interesting. If not, not really that interesting at all. It's kind of just like a press the buttons when it tells you to. But right in the middle where I'm not too sure about it. Carto is a game where, it looks a lot like visually, not gameplay wise. Visually, it looks like Don't Starve, kind of like that. And it is, I think, just like a relatively simple uh, adventure, talk to people, collect resources type of thing. Um, and the main standout thing that it has is that you can things on the map. Like the map is consisted of squares, and you'll have like a square, or maybe like a couple squares, like one, two, three, and you can like move it from here to here on the map, and you can change the map around. And that by itself is a little interesting, but what's really interesting is that by changing the map around in certain ways that it hints at, you unlock new stuff. Like I'll say something like, uh, Harold, some random character, lives in a shore to the east. So you find one of the map pieces with a shore, and you put it on the east of the map, and then Harold will appear on that map square when he would not otherwise. And that is like super cool. Um, and that's pretty much that. S-Clash was a fighting game. I don't think I spent that much time on it because it did not have multiplayer in the prologue, I think. So it's like I can't play it with anyone. Um, so I went in, I checked the moves. I'm like, yeah, the sword slash looks pretty cool. You have like the dash and the back dash and whatever. You know, hard to say though when you can't really do stuff. I can't really play against anyone. No single player mode. Crossing Souls. I gotta look this one up. I don't even remember. I think is this the one with the yeah. Okay, it's this one. Just heard something. What is it? The thing is red again. The thing is red, and also my audio is like giving me bad feedback. Hello, hello, hello. Something's wrong. Yeah. Sound is all glitchy. Yeah. Uh, hello. Maybe I bring it back? No, did not work. Maybe if hello? How about now? Okay, okay. Yeah, this seems like there's really some problems happening. I don't know what's going on. Crossing Souls is an RPG, and yeah, I mean yeah, you can look at the images since I looked it up. It was pretty cool. This game sounds good now. Um, a lot of interesting environments. Was a very interesting prologue. You can't really see the actual images because I'm like my webcam's covering it, but like yeah, kind of want to get through this real quick so that I can restart my computer, hopefully fix the issues. Very, very interesting. Virgo versus the Zodiac. One, you play as Virgo. You're infiltrating the Zodiac, and there's a bunch of fights, and it's a little interesting, but having some issues with it, where it was what was the issue I had? Let me actually think about this. Yes, what it was like a lot of the like random one-off characters were kind of interesting, maybe in the same way like Undertale has like interesting like, little like one-off characters, at least to my knowledge. Um, Virgo versus the Zodiac is similar to that, but I think the issue is that the primary characters uh, were kind of not that interesting to me. That's kind of important, in my opinion. 2.5. Um, Frail Hearts Versicere Dom Leon. Um, the RPG, uh, but I feel like you didn't really walk around, right? It was mostly just showing little battles, um, yeah, it was mostly just like a battle. You have like your character, and then you pick the move, and then you have the enemy. Um, I wasn't really into it at all, and it's not even the fact that it was like kind of horror like, because it was like kind of like a fan fiction horror kind of thing where they just like talk and then like nothing happens is kind of what it felt like. It's like felt like it needed something to happen, I guess is what I was looking for. And then in like the 40 minutes or something that I played, it felt like there was nothing. Palace on the Hill, this was pretty cool. It was uh, I don't want to say RPG again because like it's like the 3D Zelda games, but you walk around and talk to people basically, and you collect resources. Um, yeah, technically everything's an RPG because you play a role. Um, so, okay, I did. It was pretty generic. The character is kind of silent. The protagonist is a silent protagonist, and the other characters are kind of just like people. They're not so much. How do I put this? I guess they're like pretty human, but they're not that interesting, I guess is the issue, which is not that big a deal, but it doesn't stand out. What did stand out is that it's yeah, very like cultural kind of game. It felt like some of the ingredients and resources for stuff like when you want to do like crafting or cooking, there was like the one that stood out was ghee, Ghee, which is like a Indian cooking butter oil, kind of similar to that, but it's like a cultural thing that you wouldn't really have in like a standard thing, and I thought that was pretty cool. Probably give it a 2.5, which I do think a lot of like walk around, talk to people prologues tend to end up, a lot of the ones here have gameplay, and these ones here, not so much. Clanman 2 open mic. Uh, This is a game that I enjoyed a lot. Um, I'll just put in the 2.5 sorry, the 3 to end it off. Um, I enjoyed it. I thought that, I don't need that. Um, where am I going with this? I enjoy it, and I actually, it was one of the games where I looked up afterward, what was going on with it, and I don't think the full game is out yet, which is kind of unfortunate. It is a game where you walk around and talk to people. Um, but there is a major gameplay mechanic where by talking to people, you can gain um, stand-up material. That's what the open mic thing is, because Clam Man, the character you play, is sort of roped into uh, performing a stand-up act, um, and so he has to find material, and then it culminates. The prologue culminates in the stand-up performance, where you sort of perform what you collected, and it's pretty interesting. And the characters are also all very interesting as well. That's that. All right, last 10 games here. Um, After that big break in May, I was like, let's finish off, get the 30, and be on pace for that 5 games a month to 60 games a year. Um, let's see. Grimm's Hollow is an RPG, kind of modeled on that sort of like Undertale uh, vibe, I would say. Yeah. Um, Kind of short, so it didn't really take off anywhere, but it was a nice play. I certainly did not think it was a bad game, but it was short for what it was. And it's 2.5. Unbeatable White Label. This is a rhythm game. Gotta use this. Um, Also, technically a prologue. Um, but like all the stuff I felt like was kind of there. Like you can play the songs and get the score, so like it's fine. Um, I think when it comes to a rhythm game, it's really about the music. If it's going to have a specific genre or have everything right. If it's not going to have everything right, it depends on if the genre matches up with my taste, which this did. And then also, very important, especially because it's just a prologue, is the aesthetic, um, which I thought was super cool. Um, there were a couple games I had thought of beforehand to compare it to. It was Jet Set Radio, um, maybe Hi-Fi Rush. These are games I actually haven't played, so it's like it's kind of hard to exactly say like, oh, these are the games. But it has that similar feel of those type of games. I definitely thought of the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World when playing this game. I was like, that sort of like thing, and like I am definitely a fan of that sort of uh, aesthetic. Um, I enjoyed this prologue, which is kind of almost essentially a full game. You can play other things. It's just I guess that's all there is when there's supposed to be whole story and everything. This game has there's like the full game. There's like stuff being announced. I think um, what was it? I want to say I think in like the second week of June they released a trailer announcing the release date for the full game to come out in 2025, which I do believe is delayed from like their original date. But it makes sense. They have like a blog post where they talk about stuff, and the things they show is really cool. There's like a phone, and there's seems like a lot more like story stuff happening. Um, Looks very cool. Definitely hope that it's good. I won't give it a 5 because I feel like this particular title here is very small scale. there's more that could be added as evidenced by the fact that this is not the full game. Daronco Wonka is a game by, who was it by? I'll just look it up. Bandai Namco. It was developed during their 2023 rookie training program. Oh wow. So it's a pretty simple game where you play as a dog who rolls around in the dirt and then just like makes the entire house messy. Um, that's pretty much that. It's pretty fun. Um, I did uh, I did kind of have like computer issues. Like it was kind of like intensive. I guess with all the particle physics of the mud flying around. Um, but I don't have too much an issue with that. It was pretty good. It was very simple, and I think yeah, very simple though. And I think a lot of the simple games that don't do a lot tend to end up here, like Cat Quest, like Grimm's Hollow, Durango Wonka. Adios is let me explain what the game is. You play as a farmer. Um, Want to like get out of the mafia or something because you're doing stuff for the mafia, and the guy who's there is like, you can't quit the mafia. It's like you continue or you die. And the farmer's like, I know. Uh, you basically just walk around the farm and you sort of play little mini games, right? This thing has like horseshoe throwing and goat milking or something like that. Um, uh, yeah. Uh, Story, it's a lot like a lot of other games, you know, that kind of feel like they're trying to hit some emotional tone, and I don't know. Uh, I guess it sort of hits it, but like there's no gameplay to make the game good to really back it up. So stuff like when I played last year, Force Quartet, The First Tree, uh, we'll just say those two, right? Definitely. Um, that story where it's like he's like preparing to die, I guess, trying to hit some emotional tone, but the gameplay itself very much feels like a student project, I guess is how I want to describe it. And it's very impressive. It's like a showcase of like, hey, I can do a horseshoe mini game. Hey, here's some like disc shooting, and here's a goat, and you milk the goat, and like it's all like it all works. The thing is red again, by the way. Um, it all works, and it's very functional, but it very much feels like a big showcase as opposed to an actual game. I see the stream is having issues again. All right. Well, Aerial Knights never yield, which is really just never yield, right? Aerial Knight is the person who made the game. Um, Same way like Tom Clancy, Ghost Recon, I mentioned this in one of my entries. It's a runner game. It's like uh, I can't remember. I can't think of anything. But like in the same way that like Flappy Bird or Jetpack Joyride or something like that, those mobile games where you travel forward and then you want to go up or down or something like that. Um, The way this works is you when the obstacle comes up, you hit the button in response. It's pretty much that. Uh, yeah, pretty simple gameplay, and I'm not a big fan of it. Story is makes no sense to me, but I got the a sort of feel that it was like a very like a cultural kind of story. Up looking up afterward, like is Ariel Knight African American? Because like that's what I felt like, and he is, and I don't really know how to explain this, but it's like even though the story is like it's confusing to me, I felt like I got a sense of like this is like maybe something like Static Shock, if you know that TV show, or like I can't think of any other example, but it's like it feels like it represents a little piece of the African American culture, and I do think that is good. I do think that's like important. I think it's nice that there's games that have that. Um, but I do think this game is like everything else about it is like not interesting, not very fun to do. Um, and that's all I got to say about it. And I do think that this game will go into the 1 out of 5. Far Lone Sales was a club game. Um, very simple. It reminded me a lot of Inside, which I played last year, but like very much simplified in the sense that like uh, the story was a lot simpler. Um, the imagery, where Inside shows you tons and tons of like crazy things to think about. Lone Sales felt like very felt simpler. Mechanically, the puzzles I thought were simpler. They're based around this big land ship that you drive. Um, it felt easier to deal with. Yeah, this was June's game, so we did have the sort of recap meeting a couple days ago, and I did learn that like there is more to it, where like there's like little pictures and like things written that build the story that I did not personally notice. And I thought that was pretty cool that that exists. Um, and it was overall, a good experience where you could like sail, a land ship, burn the items for fuel, just use the sail to drift. Um, it's a nice game, and I will give it a 3. Reciteer, just 5 more left. All right, Reciteer is a game I've actually been wanting to play for a while, um, and I think it's the only game that I've bought recently um, that wasn't a club game. Uh, yeah, that wasn't a club game. I just bought this one because I saw, the sale seemed pretty good, and I was like, I really want to play it. Um, because I have known about this game for a while. A game where you run a shop, you set the prices, you buy low, sell high, and and it's one of those like kind of obscure games in comparison to like stuff that is released by Nintendo or uh, Sony, PlayStation. I guess Sony doesn't really make games, but um, yeah, this is like a game made by some random Japanese company, and some English people were like, we want to translate it. And they did, and it did better than expected. It was like a surprise success. And, that kind of, when I learned about it years ago, it kind of stuck with me. Like, that was a game that happened. I don't want to forget about it, and I do want to try it out, and I did. And it is kind of weird that, like, the store thing seems like it would be boring, and I think there are probably ways you could make it, and it will be boring. But this one isn't. It's really fun to do. Um, People, I've seen some reading about it, some complaints about the dungeon stuff. Similar to like Alan Wake's gameplay is like not that good, or like Death Stranding's combat's not that good. I guess it's sort of like that where I didn't really have an issue with it, even though it really is just like you run around and you have like one attack and one special move. Um, but even then, like that's not the focus of the game at all. That dungeon stuff. It's run the shop, you pay off your debt, and yeah, this is like weirdly that's all there is, but it is very enjoyable. So a 4 out of 5. Limbo. After I played Inside, I was interested in Limbo. I was actually super interested in Limbo because I like to look at top 100 lists of all time, and over the years looking at them, I remember Inside being on those lists. Um, Not Inside, sorry, Limbo being on those lists, and then Inside came out, and the list updated, and it felt like Inside was higher than where Limbo was, and also Limbo was like no longer on the list. Limbo Inside, the two games made by Play Dead is the company's name. Seeing that on the top 100 list, I always wondered like what happened. Maybe like a lot of times companies, they make they'll make a game that's similar to the other game, but it's improved. So maybe that's what happened. Um, I played Inside and I thought that was pretty cool. And then I was like, I gotta see what Limbo, what happened. And after playing it, I very much understand why it was taken off because Inside and Limbo are very similar. The side scrolling, you run around, they kind of show you stuff, but Inside really just does like so much more. There's so much more, visual stuff to see and be like, whoa. Um, Everything is like much more uh, smoother, I guess. Limbo does a lot of stuff where it's kind of, or maybe it's a little vague and kind of like frustrating, maybe. Whereas Limbo, I think is, sorry, whereas Inside is, I feel like I've just been confusing the names back and forth. Limbo is vague and frustrating at times. Inside feels like a much smoother experience. It really feels like they just improved everything there. That Limbo almost feels a bit obsolete. Um, Not to say that Limbo is a bad game, though. I think it is still quite good. Um, and I will give it a 3 here. It is on the lower side of the 3 spectrum. Uh, but yeah, it's both like I definitely understand why this game was in those like all-time top 100 lists when it was out, but I also very much understand why Inside replaced it. Figment um, is a simple kind of adventure game, which kind of surprised me. For some reason, I didn't think it would be like the kind of game that it was. And I guess I thought it would be a point and click adventure, right? But it's not. You actually like walk around and you fight enemies. And I did see that sentiment elsewhere online. Um, so yeah, I think I don't have anything else to say there. I did see that online, so I think I'm not alone with that opinion or that pre-opinion. So I was a bit surprised by what it was, and then I sort of settled into it where it was like a um, pretty standard story of like the character who I don't remember his name. Maybe he's Mr. Figment. Um, he's like a former hero. He's like hasn't been needed for a while, and he kind of feels like very like jaded and everything. He's like, oh, I don't really want to do this. When the fairy shows up and it's like, hey, you need to save the world again. Um, and it sort of kind of goes through his journey where it feels like he's getting back into the swing of things. Um, and it's kind of normal, and that sort of thing is like it's not like very prominent. His regaining of his heroism, and then right at the end, it does that sort of like emotional appeal. Is I guess what I want to say in the same way that like Adios, First Tree, um, Forest Quartet does, and it's a bit unexpected for sure, but it's like it is not bad. I guess because the gameplay is pretty decent. There's very functional. Um, uh, I would give it a 2.5. It does come a little bit out of left field, I guess, and it's like good. The emotional appeal is pulled off in a decent way, but it's like kind of weird, and the ending as well. As with most of these types of games, it feels like you didn't tie everything together. You kind of just showed the emotional thing, maybe, close off that emotional thing, but not everything else. Last day of June. Um, I was definitely thinking about playing this on the last day of June, but then I had some free time a couple days before. Um, as you can see, the 27th, and I was like, if I can play it earlier, I should. Um, this is a another sort of emotional appeal game that has quite a nice story, I think, and it's very much about time loops, um, where your goal is to uh, save June, who is a person. So, like last day of June, doesn't necessarily take place on the last day of June. Um, you play as a bunch of different characters and you change what they do, and this sort of modifies the timeline as you try to find the one that lets you save June. Uh, and of course, there's a whole, emotional thing. It is a silent game. The characters, they all go like, hmm, their whole like voice thing. I do think this makes it kind of, actually, I don't know. I think everything gets across, and I feel like it all works out. But ultimately, I don't know. Maybe I'm no longer into these emotional appeal games because the gameplay it's fine. You know, I will give it a 2.5 as well. Lastly, and hopefully we don't just get like a random crash right at the end, but this will be the last one. Utazione. Um, this is also very much like in the woods where you walk around, you talk to people. Um, Utazione is what's different about it, I guess, where Night in the Woods is very much about this, like returning to your hometown. Utazian is kind of like going on a vacation to like a rural town. So, you know, there's just a couple places and a couple people that you can talk to, and it is, they are very human. I did read a bit about this game, and I learned that they base the game off of soap operas, and there's like a character who's like super into soap operas, and the events that end up happening, it feels, like a soap opera in some ways. Uh, Even so, despite the fact that, the soap opera thing is like events happen, it's like the slowest game. Uh, it's like a really slow burn type of game where, in the same way, in the way that you might expect of like a rundown, like island rural town, there's days where it feels like there's not really anything to do, even if you're out and about. Like people are in their routines. Um, Even though there's like crazy soap opera stuff happening, it's like it feels very slow and very what's the word I'm here trying to think here? I can't figure it out, but it is good. Like a slow game is not necessarily a bad game. This game, it's that slow tone feels right for that sort of rural town, routines, and then events happen. It feels like you kind of really learn about everyone when you talk to people. And then there's like weird magic stuff that happens, and even then, it's like fine, right? Like it's like it feels like it all feels right. It feels like like a nice little home. Um, and actually, this game has a post game too that I feel like works really well. Where um, the main character, who's like kind of there for a little bit, they go back to their house, and they send a post where like I can't visit for the summer because I'm doing some sort of summer program or something. Um, you know, 24 hours of real life time. You can get a letter back from one of the characters of the game, and this happens 7 times in a row. And you know, they send something back. They're like, "Oh yeah, here's how life is now. A year later, or maybe it was 2 years later or something. I don't really know." And it's like, even though I'm waiting 24 hours, it feels like it makes sense. Sometimes I wonder if like maybe it would make sense to wait even longer. Although I think at that point maybe it'd be too long and you sort of forget. Um, but it's nice. It's a very nice game. I've read more about it. I read people who like really like the game. One of their favorites. For me, it is uh, super good, and that's that. That is the end of my review here of all the games I played. Um, Last couple of things I want to do before I stop the stream and then restart and see if that will fix everything, even though it's actually been okay for a little while. Maybe someone else is like using their computer or something and doing something. Um, is no, is to go over the top 100 that I have. So I made this list, this top 100 here, at the end of 2023, as marked here. The ones in green were the ones I had played for the year. I've been trying to write an article where I explain everything. Obviously, Blue's Art Adventure is kind of a joke, but I'll explain everything. And I guess to talk about the games that I added here, you have like Control here. I thought was super good. Side, and actually you can see here that I moved it up even more. I enjoyed XCOM. I like Night in the Woods, Celeste, right? I have an article that has, I think, this exact top 100. And of course, towards the end, there's like games where I kind of wasn't super big on, but like to fill out a top 100, I got to put some games in there. Um, and down here, I have a bunch of games that I felt were too similar to other games to make it on the list, though they would be in top 100 otherwise. And I guess what I want to do is show my current mid 2024, which is definitely, it's change and evolve. There's games that staying power, there's games that don't. Nights in the Dreams rates here. Death Stranding, which is not completed, but right now this is where it is, could easily move up or down because I'm not even done with it. That's what the grayed out is, where I think, like some of these games, I don't think I ever reached the ending, but I enjoyed them when I played them. And then you have like Transistor, Reciteer, Unbeatable, Zoo, Mutazione, so on and so on. Is there anything I wanted to point out here? Disney Princess Enchanted Journey is here. Very important. That's all I got to say about that. And then I have my schedule here for 2024. I didn't really follow my 2020, my first 6 month schedule, but like it's good to be a little organized. We'll see how this goes. Doom 2 and Hi-Fi Rush are club games, so I should be playing those. Rest of these games here, probably won't be in this exact order, but it's what I'm looking forward to the most. And then I did already beat Absolute Drift, and really not that long ago at all. It's an interesting game. I definitely need like a little bit of time to sort of sit on it, though. That is that. I am gonna go offline right now, restart my computer, and then get into the first music list. I think that's the only one I'll do, just because it's 10:30. Even though I tried to make the stream shorter, it just it's too difficult. But yeah, gonna restart and then do that one music list. I guess the other one I'll do it on Wednesday. So yeah, that's my review. Literal.